Welcome back, American Coin Hunter. The year is 1988, a year that for most people passed quietly. But for coin collectors and treasure hunters around the world, it became one of the most mysterious and talked about years in modern American numismatic history, because hidden in plain sight, circulating through pockets, cash registers, grocery stores, gas stations, and banks, was a simple 1-cent coin that looked ordinary to the untrained eye, yet carried stories, secrets, errors, and potential. Values that would later shock the collecting world and ignite legends of pennies worth more than mansions, private jets, and entire businesses combined. The 1988 1-cent coin, commonly known as the Lincoln Memorial penny, represents far more than just copper-plated zinc. It represents a moment in time when manufacturing technology, human error, economic change, and collector obsession collided to create one of the most fascinating modern pennies ever struck by the United States Mint. To truly understand why the 1988 1-cent coin has captured so much attention, we need to travel back to the origins of the Lincoln cent itself. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. This was the first time a real historical figure appeared on regular circulating American coinage. And from that moment forward, the penny became more than spare change. It became a miniature monument to American history. By 1988, the design had already gone through decades of use, refinements, metal composition changes, and mass production on an industrial scale that few people ever stopped to consider. Yet it was exactly this massive scale of production that allowed rare errors and anomalies to slip through undetected. The 1988 penny features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, facing right, with the word Liberty stamped boldly to the left, the year 1988 to the right, and the familiar phrase "In God We Trust" arching above his head. The reverse displays the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959, with the words United States of America along the top, 1 cent at the bottom, and E pluribus unum just above the memorial structure. At first glance, millions of these coins look identical, but collectors know that the devil is in the microscopic details. The standard weight of a 1988 penny is approximately 2.5 grams, as by this time the U.S. Mint had fully transitioned to a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper. This change began in 1982 due to rising copper prices, and it dramatically altered how pennies wear, sound, and age. The coin symbol, often referred to by collectors as the mint mark, can be found below the year. A blank space indicates the coin was minted in Philadelphia. A small d indicates Denver, and although no San Francisco pennies were struck for circulation that year, proof versions were made with an S mint mark. Philadelphia alone produced billions of pennies in 1988, and Denver produced billions more. With numbers that large, it becomes almost inevitable that something would go wrong, and it did. Errors occurred at every stage of the minting process, from planchet preparation to die creation to the final striking of the coin. Some of these errors are minor and worth only a few dollars, but others are so rare, so dramatic, and so misunderstood that they have fueled claims of valuations reaching into the hundreds of millions of dollars under the right conditions. One of the most discussed errors associated with the 1988 1-cent coin is the double die error. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin receives a misaligned second impression during its creation, causing letters, numbers, or design elements to appear doubled. On certain 1988 pennies, collectors have identified doubling in the date, the word Liberty, and even Lincoln's facial features. True double dies are not the same as machine doubling, and this distinction is critical. A genuine double die shows clear separation and rounded edges, while machine doubling looks flat and shelf-like. Authentic double die 1988 pennies can command thousands, tens of thousands, or in exceptional cases, far more. Another major error category is off-metal and wrong planchet strikes. Although rare, there have been reports and documented examples of 1988 pennies struck on foreign planchets, experimental metals, or transitional blanks intended for other denominations. These coins often weigh significantly more or less than the standard 2.5 grams and may appear silver-colored, unusually thick, or strangely toned. Such coins are often the foundation of high-value claims, especially when they are authenticated and graded by top third-party services. Then there are the dramatic mint errors that capture public imagination instantly, such as off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, broad strikes where the coin spreads beyond its intended shape, and multiple strike errors where the coin was struck more than once in misaligned positions. While many of these are collectible at modest levels, extreme examples with strong visual impact can reach astonishing prices, especially when demand far exceeds supply. The mystery deepens when we discuss die varieties and subtle design anomalies that were not officially documented at the time of production. Some collectors believe that experimental dies or transitional tooling changes occurred in 1988, leading to rare varieties that were never meant for circulation. These coins are often discovered decades later, sometimes in old collections, inherited coin jars, or even bank rolls, adding to the legend that priceless pennies may still be hiding in plain sight. Now we come to the topic that sparks the most debate, excitement, skepticism, and fascination. The claim that certain 1988 1-cent coins could be worth up to $278 million. To understand this figure, one must step outside the traditional idea of coin value based solely on metal content or standard auction results. Ultra-high valuations typically arise from a combination of extreme rarity, historical significance, unique error classification, perfect or near-perfect condition, and intense private collector interest. In some cases, these values are discussed in the context of private treaty sales, museum acquisitions, or theoretical valuations if a coin were to be confirmed as a unique transitional or experimental piece. Collectors and analysts who discuss such figures often point to precedents in the numismatic world where coins have sold privately for sums far exceeding public auction records. When a coin is believed to be the only known example of its kind, especially if it represents a major minting anomaly or undocumented experiment, its value becomes less about market averages and more about what a single determined buyer is willing to pay. In this sense, the $278 million valuation is less a fixed price and more a symbol of the upper ceiling of possibility under extraordinary circumstances. The condition of the coin plays a massive role in any valuation discussion. A 1988 penny graded MS-70, indicating a flawless mint state coin with no post-production imperfections, would already be extraordinary given the mass-produced nature of the coin. Combine that level of preservation with a dramatic and verifiable mint error, and the value equation changes completely. Coins like this are no longer compared to other pennies. They are compared to historic artifacts. History also adds emotional weight to the 1988 penny story. The late 1980s were a period of transition for the U.S. Mint, with evolving technology, changing materials, and increased production demands. Errors from this era represent a snapshot of that transformation. Each flawed coin tells a story about machinery, human oversight, and the pressure of producing billions of coins for a growing economy. As the story of the 1988 1-cent coin continues to unfold, the deeper you go, the more complex and fascinating it becomes, because this tiny piece of metal is not just a coin, it is a witness to a massive industrial process, a reflection of economic pressures, and a silent carrier of mistakes that were never meant to escape the walls of the United States Mint. Every 1988 penny that exists today passed through a long chain of events, from raw metal sourcing to blank preparation, from die creation to high-speed striking machines capable of producing hundreds of coins per minute, and it is within this high-pressure, high-volume environment that the most valuable errors are born. During 1988, the U.S. Mint was operating at an enormous scale. Demand for small change was high, vending machines were everywhere, cash transactions dominated daily life, and pennies were still widely used. To keep up, the Mint ran its presses relentlessly. When machines run that fast, even the smallest misalignment, the tiniest crack in a die, or the slightest contamination in metal composition can result in coins that should never exist. Most of these flawed coins are caught and destroyed, but a small number inevitably slip through quality control, entering circulation unnoticed. One of the most intriguing error types associated with 1988 pennies involves die deterioration and die breaks. As dies strike millions of coins, they wear down. Fine details soften, cracks form, and sometimes entire chunks of the die break away. When this happens, coins struck afterward can show raised lines, blobs of metal, or missing details. In extreme cases, The damage to the die creates unique visual patterns that appear on only a limited number of coins before the die is replaced. These coins become instantly desirable to collectors because they represent a specific moment in the die's life, a moment that can never be recreated. Some 1988 pennies have been reported with dramatic cut errors, where a portion of the die broke off, leaving a large raised, blob-like area on the coin's surface. These errors are not subtle. They jump out visually and often appear near the rim, sometimes obscuring letters or parts of the design. A major cut error on a high-grade 1988 penny can command significant attention, especially if it is large, well-defined, and confirmed as a genuine mint error rather than post-mint damage. Another layer of intrigue comes from rotational errors. In a properly struck coin, the obverse and reverse are aligned in a specific orientation. When a coin is rotated vertically, the reverse should appear upright. Some 1988 pennies, however, exhibit rotation errors where the reverse is tilted, sometimes by a few degrees, sometimes by nearly 180 degrees. Minor rotations are relatively common, but extreme rotations are rare and highly collectible. These coins challenge our expectations of what a penny should look like and remind us that even standardized processes are vulnerable to deviation. Collectors also pay close attention to the rims and edges of 1988 pennies. A standard penny has a smooth edge and a well-defined rim that frames the design. Errors such as partial collars, missing rims, or uneven edge thickness can indicate problems during the striking process. A partial collar error, for example, occurs when the retaining collar that shapes the coin fails to engage properly, allowing metal to flow outward and create a coin with an unusually shaped edge. These errors are especially dramatic when combined with other anomalies. The metal composition of the 1988 penny is another area where myths, facts, and speculation intersect. Officially, the coin consists of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating. However, rumors persist within the collecting community about rare 1988 pennies struck on leftover copper planchets or experimental blanks. While confirmed examples are extremely rare or non-existent in public records, the mere possibility fuels intense interest. A genuine 1988 penny struck on a pre-1982 solid copper planchet would weigh approximately 3.11 grams instead of 2.5 grams and would instantly become one of the most important modern U.S. coins ever discovered. This is where the conversation around extreme valuations, including figures like $278 million, often finds its footing. A coin that combines multiple layers of rarity, such as a wrong metal strike, a dramatic die error, pristine condition, and clear provenance, moves beyond traditional collecting categories. It becomes a once-in-a-generation artifact. In such cases, value is driven not by price guides, but by exclusivity and desire. Wealthy collectors, institutions, and private museums compete for ownership, sometimes in private negotiations that never make headlines. The psychology of collecting cannot be ignored when discussing these valuations. Coins are tangible history. They can be held, examined, and admired in ways that stocks, digital assets, or abstract investments cannot. For some collectors, owning a unique coin is about legacy, prestige, and the thrill of possessing something no one else has. This emotional component can push prices to levels that seem unbelievable to outsiders. The 1988 penny also occupies a special place in the timeline of Lincoln cent design. The Lincoln Memorial reverse would soon be replaced decades later by new designs, making coins from this era part of a closed chapter in American coinage. Collectors often look back at transitional periods with heightened interest, knowing that changes in design or composition often coincide with unusual errors and varieties. Market activity surrounding 1988 pennies has steadily increased over the years, especially with the rise of online marketplaces, auction platforms, and social media. Stories of rare finds spread quickly, inspiring new collectors to search their change and old collections. Even common 1988 pennies in high mint state condition have seen increased interest, as grading services assign higher premiums to well-preserved examples. It is important to understand that most 1988 pennies are still worth only face value, and that is precisely what makes the hunt so compelling. The idea that something so common could hide something so rare creates a sense of possibility. Every coin examined is a question mark. Every unusual mark or weight discrepancy is a potential clue. This mindset transforms an ordinary activity into a treasure hunt. Education plays a critical role in separating genuine rarities from wishful thinking. Many people mistake damage for errors, confusing scratches, corrosion, or environmental wear with mint-produced anomalies. True errors occur during the minting process and exhibit specific characteristics that trained eyes can recognize. Learning these differences protects collectors from disappointment and helps preserve the integrity of the hobby. The legacy of the 1988 1-cent coin continues to evolve as new discoveries are made and old assumptions are challenged. What was once dismissed as insignificant change is now studied under microscopes, weighed on precision scales, and debated in collector forums around the world. Each confirmed error adds another data point, another chapter to the story. And still, the most captivating aspect of the 1988 penny is the unanswered question. How many rare examples are still out there? How many have been lost, damaged, or melted down? How many sit unnoticed in collections, waiting for someone to recognize their significance? The answers remain hidden, scattered across time and geography, embedded in the everyday transactions of decades past. As long as pennies continue to circulate, as long as collectors continue to search, and as long as stories of extraordinary value continue to inspire curiosity, the 1988 1-cent coin will remain more than just a piece of currency. It will remain a symbol of hidden potential, a reminder that history often hides in the smallest places, and that sometimes the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is just a matter of looking closer. As we move even deeper into the world of the 1988 1-cent coin, the narrative becomes less about a single year and more about a chain reaction of events, discoveries, and human behavior that continues to ripple through the numismatic community decades later. What makes this penny so captivating is not just what we already know, but what remains uncertain, undocumented, and possibly still undiscovered. Every generation of collectors brings new tools, new perspectives, and new energy to the search, and the 1988 penny sits at the center of that ongoing curiosity. One of the most overlooked aspects of the 1988 penny story is the role of mint workers themselves. These were real people operating real machines, adjusting settings, replacing dies, loading planchets, and responding to production pressures. A slightly misadjusted press, a rushed die replacement, or a momentary lapse in calibration could result in hundreds or thousands of flawed coins being struck before the issue was noticed. In a high-output environment, a single mistake could create a small population of coins that are identical in their error, forming a variety that would only be recognized years later. Die clashes are another fascinating phenomenon associated with pennies of this era. A die clash occurs when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between. This can leave faint impressions of one side's design on the other. On some 1988 pennies, collectors have identified clash marks that appear as ghostly outlines of letters or architectural elements from the Lincoln Memorial appearing behind Lincoln's portrait. These subtle errors require careful examination and are often missed by casual observers, yet they add another layer of intrigue and collectability. Then there are filled die errors, where grease, debris, or metal shavings clog parts of the die, preventing full details from being struck. This can cause missing letters, weak dates, or partially absent design elements. On a 1988 penny, a filled die might result in a missing or faint liberty, a distorted "I in God we trust," or an incomplete memorial. While minor filled die errors are common, extreme examples with dramatic visual impact are far less frequent and can become highly sought after. The question of provenance also becomes increasingly important as values rise. Provenance refers to the documented history of a coin's ownership, discovery, and handling. A 1988 penny discovered in an original mint-sealed roll, a long-held collection, or a well-documented estate carries more credibility than one with an unclear past. In the world of high-value coins, documentation can be nearly as important as the coin itself. It helps establish authenticity, legitimacy, and historical context. The rise of professional coin grading services has fundamentally changed how coins like the 1988 penny are evaluated. Before third-party grading became widespread, condition assessments were subjective and inconsistent. Today, Coins are encapsulated in tamper-evident holders, assigned numerical grades, and accompanied by detailed descriptions of any errors or varieties. This system has brought greater transparency and confidence to the market, allowing collectors to buy and sell with a clearer understanding of what they are acquiring at the same time. Grading has introduced new challenges. Some collectors focus intensely on minute differences between grades, knowing that a single point on the grading scale can mean the difference between a modest premium and a life-changing sum. For a 1988 penny with an extraordinary error, achieving the highest possible grade can multiply its value exponentially. This has led to careful handling, professional conservation, and sometimes repeated submissions in hopes of achieving a higher grade. The internet has played a powerful role in shaping the mythology of the 1988 penny. Online forums, video platforms, and social media groups allow collectors to share images, theories, and discoveries instantly. A single post can spark worldwide interest, sending thousands of people searching through their change jars. While this connectivity has accelerated learning and discovery, it has also fueled misinformation, exaggerated claims, and unrealistic expectations. Separating fact from fiction requires patience, research, and critical thinking. Despite the noise, genuine discoveries continue to emerge. Occasionally, a coin surfaces that challenges existing knowledge, forcing experts to reconsider what they thought they knew. When this happens, it reinvigorates the entire field. The possibility that a previously unknown 1988 penny variety could still exist keeps the hunt alive and the community engaged. The emotional element of collecting cannot be overstated. For many people, the search for rare coins is not about money alone. It is about connection, nostalgia, and the thrill of discovery. Finding a rare 1988 penny can feel like uncovering a secret message from the past, a tangible link to a moment in history that most people overlooked. This emotional reward often outweighs financial considerations. Economic factors also influence how coins are valued and perceived. During times of inflation, market uncertainty, or financial instability, tangible assets like rare coins often attract increased interest. The idea of holding something physical, finite, and historically significant appeals to those seeking alternatives to traditional investments. In such environments, stories of extreme valuations gain traction, reinforcing the perception of coins as stores of value. The 1988 penny sits at the intersection of all these forces. It is common yet potentially rare, simple yet complex, overlooked yet intensely studied. It represents a paradox that defines much of numismatics, the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. This paradox is what keeps collectors coming back, year after year, coin after coin. As time passes, the number of surviving high-grade 1988 pennies will only decrease. Zinc-based pennies are particularly vulnerable to environmental damage, corrosion, and plating issues. Each damaged coin reduces the population of potential top-condition examples, increasing the relative rarity of those that remain pristine. This slow attrition adds another dimension to long-term value considerations. Looking ahead, future technological advancements may reveal even more about the 1988 penny. Improved imaging, metallurgical analysis, and data sharing could uncover patterns and anomalies that are currently invisible. Coins once dismissed as ordinary might be reclassified as rare varieties based on new evidence. The story is far from finished. In the end, the 1988 1-cent coin serves as a reminder that history is not always preserved in museums or textbooks. Sometimes it circulates quietly in everyday life, passing from hand to hand, waiting for someone to notice. And for those willing to look closely, to learn, and to remain patient, that quiet history can reveal surprises beyond imagination, continuing to challenge our assumptions about value, rarity, and the hidden potential of even the smallest coin. The deeper this journey goes, the more the 1988 1-cent coin begins to feel less like an object and more like a living story that continues to grow with time, shaped by discoveries, debates, and the relentless curiosity of collectors who refuse to believe that everything worth finding has already been found. Every year that passes adds another layer of distance between the present and the moment these pennies were struck, and that distance itself transforms them from everyday objects into historical survivors, point, one of the most powerful ideas surrounding the 1988 penny is scarcity through survival rather than scarcity through mintage. Billions were produced, but only a tiny fraction remain in exceptional condition. Zinc pennies are notoriously fragile. When the copper plating is breached, even slightly, moisture can attack the zinc core, causing bubbling, peeling, and irreversible damage. This means that truly pristine 1988 pennies are disappearing quietly, one corroded coin at a time, making high-grade survivors increasingly rare. This survival-based rarity plays a crucial role in long-term value growth. A coin does not need to be rare at birth to become rare later. Time, neglect, and environmental exposure do the work naturally. Collectors who understand this concept often focus on acquiring the best-preserved examples they can find, knowing that decades from now, those coins may stand out dramatically against a landscape of damaged survivors. The human element continues to shape the story as well. Many rare 1988 pennies have been discovered not by professional dealers, but by ordinary people who decided to look a little closer. Bank tellers, store clerks, students, and retirees have all played a role in uncovering unusual coins. These stories resonate because they suggest that discovery is not limited to experts. Anyone with patience and curiosity can participate. Another fascinating area involves the study of microvarieties. These are tiny differences in design elements that occur due to variations in die engraving, polishing, or repair. In 1988 pennies, microvarieties might include slight differences in the shape of numbers, spacing between letters, or the thickness of design elements. Individually, these differences might seem insignificant, but when documented and linked to specific dies, they can form identifiable varieties with collector interest. The study of these microvarieties requires intense focus and dedication. Collectors use high-powered microscopes, digital imaging, and side-by-side comparisons to identify patterns. Over time, what begins as a single observation can develop into a recognized variety if enough matching examples are found. This process highlights the collaborative nature of numismatics, where knowledge grows through shared effort. Market perception is another force that cannot be ignored. Value is not static. It is shaped by demand, trends, and storytelling. When a particular error or variety gains attention, demand can surge rapidly. Prices follow interest, and interest follows compelling narratives. The 1988 penny benefits from a narrative rich with mystery, possibility, and the allure of hidden wealth. The idea of a $278 million penny, while extraordinary, functions as a beacon within this narrative. It captures attention, fuels imagination, and draws new eyes to the field. Whether such a valuation ever materializes publicly is almost secondary to its impact. It keeps the conversation alive, encouraging exploration and learning. It is also important to recognize the role of skepticism. Healthy skepticism protects the integrity of the hobby. Experts question claims, demand evidence, and insist on rigorous analysis. This process filters out exaggeration and helps ensure that truly remarkable discoveries receive the recognition they deserve. In this way, skepticism and enthusiasm work together, pushing the field forward. The relationship between collectors and institutions adds another dimension. Museums, universities, and historical organizations sometimes acquire coins not for resale, but for preservation and study. A unique 1988 penny with significant historical or technical importance could one day find its home in an institutional collection, where its value is measured in educational impact rather than dollars. Cultural context also matters. Coins reflect the era in which they were made. The late 1980s were a time of technological transition, global change, and shifting economic priorities. The humble penny, produced in staggering quantities, supported everyday commerce while quietly absorbing the marks of industrial stress and human imperfection. Those marks are what collectors now treasure. The longer collectors study the 1988 penny, the clearer it becomes that its significance extends beyond any single error or valuation. It represents a chapter in the ongoing evolution of American coinage, a chapter defined by mass production and the unintended consequences that come with it. Every error is a reminder that even the most advanced systems are imperfect. As awareness grows, fewer unusual coins slip through unnoticed. This makes future discoveries harder, but also more exciting. When a genuine rarity appears today, it stands out sharply against a background of knowledge and documentation. Each new find is scrutinized, debated, and contextualized within decades of accumulated research. In this way, the story of the 1988 1-cent coin is not fixed. It is dynamic, shaped by every new discovery and every new collector who joins the search. It evolves as technology improves and as perspectives change. What seems impossible today may become accepted tomorrow. And so the journey continues, carried forward by curiosity and patience. The 1988 penny remains a quiet challenge, inviting anyone who encounters it to slow down, look closer, and question assumptions. In a world that moves fast and values the obvious, this small coin whispers a different message, that significance often hides in the smallest details, waiting for those willing to notice. As this exploration moves forward, the 1988 1-cent coin begins to reveal another powerful truth, that time itself is one of the greatest forces in numismatics, silently reshaping perception, availability, and importance. What was once dismissed as insignificant change now sits at the center of intense study, simply because enough years have passed for patterns to emerge. With distance, clarity grows, and with clarity, appreciation follows. One of the most interesting shifts in recent years has been how collectors approach modern-era coins like the 1988 penny. In the past, many serious collectors focused almost exclusively on older coins, believing that true rarity could only exist in the distant past. That mindset has changed. Today, collectors recognize that modern coins can be just as rare, if not rarer, when it comes to specific errors and top-condition survivors. The 1988 penny has benefited directly from this shift in thinking. Another factor that elevates interest is documentation. As more examples are studied, photographed, and cataloged, a clearer picture forms of what exists and what does not. This process has already revealed that certain error types once thought to be common are actually far scarcer than assumed. Conversely, it has also shown that some highly publicized claims do not hold up under scrutiny. This ongoing refinement of knowledge adds credibility to genuine discoveries. The influence of grading populations cannot be ignored. Population reports from grading services show how many coins of a particular type and grade have been certified. When collectors see that only a handful of 1988 pennies exist in the highest grades, especially with confirmed errors, it reinforces the idea that these coins occupy a narrow and exclusive category. Scarcity becomes quantifiable, and quantification drives confidence. Confidence, in turn, drives investment. While not all collectors view coins as investments, many appreciate the potential for appreciation. The 1988 penny, particularly in error form, appeals to both collectors and investors because it combines accessibility with upside potential. Anyone can search for one, but only a few will ever find something extraordinary. The role of education continues to expand. Books, articles, videos, and online courses have made numismatic knowledge more accessible than ever. As people learn how to properly identify errors and varieties, the quality of discoveries improves. Fewer false claims reach the spotlight, and genuine rarities receive more focused attention. This maturation of the hobby benefits coins like the 1988 penny by placing them in a more informed context. There is also a generational element at play. Younger collectors, raised in a digital world, bring new energy and tools to the search. They use high-resolution imaging, data analysis, and global communication to study coins collaboratively. This modern approach has already led to new insights into older coins and is likely to do the same for the 1988 penny as interest continues. Economic cycles influence collecting behavior as well. During periods of economic uncertainty, people often turn to tangible assets with historical significance. Coins offer a unique blend of portability, durability, and narrative appeal. Stories of extraordinary valuations, such as the legendary $278 million figure associated with the 1988 penny, resonate more strongly in such times, reinforcing the allure of rare coins. The ethics of collecting also deserve attention. Responsible collectors prioritize preservation, accurate representation, and respect for history. Altered coins, deceptive practices, and exaggerated claims can harm the hobby. The ongoing discussion around the 1988 penny has highlighted the importance of integrity, encouraging collectors to seek authentication and share information transparently. As more data becomes available, patterns begin to emerge regarding where and how rare 1988 pennies are found. Certain regions, storage conditions, and sources appear more likely to yield high-quality examples. This knowledge guides future searches, making them more strategic and focused. The emotional journey of discovery remains central. Finding an unusual coin can be a deeply personal experience, triggering excitement, disbelief, and pride. These emotions connect people to the past and to each other. The 1988 penny, with its mix of familiarity and mystery, serves as a perfect catalyst for these experiences. Looking toward the future, it is clear that the story of the 1988 1-cent coin is far from complete. New technologies, new collectors, and new discoveries will continue to reshape understanding. What remains constant is the coin's ability to surprise, to challenge assumptions, and to inspire curiosity. In a world overflowing with information and distractions, the act of examining a small coin demands patience and focus. It slows time, encouraging careful observation and thoughtful analysis. The 1988 penny rewards this approach, revealing layers of significance that are invisible at a glance. Ultimately, the enduring fascination with this coin lies in its contradiction. It is both common and potentially extraordinary, both simple and complex. It invites anyone to participate, while promising rewards only to those who look deeper. This balance ensures that the 1988 1-cent coin will remain a subject of discussion, study, and wonder for generations to come. As the narrative continues to unfold, the 1988 1-cent coin begins to occupy a unique mental space for collectors, somewhere between realism and imagination, evidence and possibility. This is where legends are born, not from pure fantasy, but from repeated encounters with small, undeniable anomalies that refuse to be explained away easily. Each unusual coin strengthens the belief that something exceptional may still be waiting to be discovered. One of the most compelling aspects of the 1988 penny is how it rewards long-term observation. Coins that appear normal at first glance often reveal subtle irregularities under magnification or when compared side by side with known standards. Slight shifts in letter spacing, minute distortions in Lincoln's portrait, or unusual texture in the fields can all point toward deeper irregularities. These are not mistakes easily spotted in passing. They require time, patience, and familiarity. Collectors who specialize in this era often keep extensive reference collections. They study dozens, sometimes hundreds, of normal examples to train their eyes. Only then can a true anomaly stand out clearly. This methodical approach transforms coin collecting into a form of visual science, where observation and comparison lead to insight. Another area of interest involves the life cycle of dies. A single die can produce coins in multiple stages of wear, from sharp and fresh to heavily deteriorated. Coins struck early in a die's life look crisp and well-defined, while those struck later show weakening details and flow lines. In some cases, transitional stages produce coins with unusual combinations of features. Studying these stages helps collectors understand how specific 1988 varieties came to exist. The environment in which coins are stored after leaving circulation also affects their condition and collectability. Pennies kept in dry, stable environments age gracefully, while those exposed to moisture, heat, or chemicals degrade quickly. This makes the survival of high-quality 1988 pennies partly a matter of chance. A coin stored in a forgotten drawer may survive far better than one that circulated for years. The concept of rarity continues to evolve as research deepens. Rarity is not just about how many coins were made, but how many exist today in a specific state. A rare error in poor condition may be less desirable than a slightly less rare error in exceptional condition. This balance between rarity and preservation shapes market demand and influences long-term value. The storytelling aspect of coin collecting plays a significant role in sustaining interest. Each discovery comes with a narrative, where it was found, how it was recognized, and what it revealed. These stories circulate within the community, inspiring others and reinforcing the sense that discovery is always possible. The 1988 penny has generated countless such narratives, each adding to its mystique. As awareness grows, so does the responsibility to document findings accurately. Serious collectors keep detailed records, photographs, and notes. This documentation not only supports authentication, but also contributes to the collective understanding of the coin. Over time, individual efforts merge into a shared body of knowledge. Technological tools continue to enhance this process. Digital microscopes, high-resolution cameras, and image comparison software allow collectors to examine coins in ways that were unimaginable decades ago. These tools have already helped identify new varieties and confirm subtle errors in 1988 pennies, and their influence will only increase. The debate surrounding extreme valuations remains a constant undercurrent. While most collectors approach such figures with caution, they acknowledge that history has shown dramatic surprises before. Coins once considered modest have later achieved legendary status due to unique circumstances. The possibility, however remote, keeps the conversation alive. Cultural fascination with hidden treasure also fuels interest. Stories of valuable coins found in everyday settings resonate deeply because they challenge assumptions about worth and attention. The idea that a life-changing discovery could be hiding in plain sight appeals to a universal sense of hope. The 1988 penny embodies this idea perfectly. It is familiar, unassuming, and widely overlooked. Yet within that familiarity lies the potential for discovery, learning, and connection to history. This duality is what keeps collectors engaged year after year. As research continues and new generations take up the search, the 1988 1-cent coin remains a quiet invitation. It does not announce its secrets loudly. Instead, it waits patiently, offering its story only to those willing to look closely, think critically, and remain open to the unexpected.